another episode of the Total R&B podcast. My name is Loreena, and today's guest is a singer, a songwriter, a producer. I feel like he's just an all-around creative, but we're going to learn more about him. He's from New Jersey, and he's building something which I find is really special that we're going to get into, Sci-Fi Soul, which I've never heard of. It's something that he coined, so we're going to learn about that. And he's written songs for different artists, produced songs for different artists as well, one of them being Ali Caldwell that we just had on the Total R&B podcast. So check out her latest project, episode 1, that is out now. But this guest has been putting out music on his own as well. So the latest one is I Write Songs Now, Volume 3, that we're going to get into too. So I'm so excited. Welcome to the podcast, A Natural.
Thank you for having me. This is amazing. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited that you said yes. You did mention that you did email me before, and I don't know what happened to that email. So I was not ignoring you. I really don't remember because I probably would have said yes because I'm still growing. So I'm never like, no, I'm not going to interview someone. To me,
It's
that's
totally
crazy.
okay. It happens.
No, it does. But I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak to me. So I do appreciate it because, everybody has a lot going on. So thank you so much. I always start the podcast off the same way, same question. What comes to mind when I say, what is your first memory of R&B music?
Wow. My first memory of R&B music is probably sitting in my parents' living room listening to Earth, Wind and Fire on my dad's record player.
Yes. I
Like
love
I come
Earth,
from
Wind
a yeah, I come from a very musical household, so if it wasn't Earth, Wind and Fire, then it was probably some jazz music from my mom, like Diane Reeves, Ella Fitzgerald. But my dad definitely was like my first introduction to like R&B, like true R&B.
Okay. Were they artists? Did they play instruments? Or they just love music?
So that's how they met. My parents met at church and they formed a band together. So my dad, at the time, was playing drums and bass guitar, and my mom was the lead singer. And I guess that's how they met, fell in love, and had my sister, and then had me.
I love that. I love those stories of how like parents and people just in general how they got together, like what their love story is. So that's really cool that music brought them together and then that is what you do for a living. So that's super cool. So what are some who are some artists that have influenced you in your music? I know you grew up like listening to jazz and R&B and gospel, but if you could name a few of the artists.
I mean, I always tell people that if you look in my Apple Music, you're gonna find every single thing possible under the sun. So Brandy, of course, Kim Burrell, Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, but then I love Bjork, I love System of a Down, I love country music, I love everything. So I've got the gambit, even classical music, because I'm classically trained from college. So I listen to a lot.
Okay, that's dope. Okay, so then growing up in New Jersey, you went to school for music?
I did. I went for a semester.
Oh,
Yep, I went for one semester after I graduated. I graduated high school early, and then I decided to go to Five Towns on Long Island. And Five Towns is kind of famous for like, Clive Davis is an honorary graduate from there. Chrisette Michelle went there. A whole bunch of different people have gone to Five Towns. But I stayed for a semester because I wanted to learn how to get a record deal, not how to sing all over again. So after the first semester, I was like, let me go ahead and go somewhere else and figure out some business things to do instead.
okay. So, well, that makes sense because sometimes too, I feel like not even within like a school like that, but just in general, a lot of us go to school because our parents tell us that's the way to go, and we go into like a degree that we just don't want. So, I like that you kind of listened to what you actually wanted to do and then went and pursued that. So that's dope that you actually did that and didn't waste the time being there because you knew what you wanted. So what did you do to learn more of the business side of the music industry?
So when I left Five Towns, I went to a local college in Jersey and started taking some business classes. Um, but then even at the same time, I started working at another recording studio and started to get my feet wet in like working with different artists and being an engineer, being a songwriter, things of that nature. And ever since then, I just haven't stopped. So, you know, being in the studio with so many different people has brought me in front of different labels and A&Rs and things of that nature. So the business side kind of came in conjunction with being creative as well.
Do you remember what your first session was being in the studio?
The first session that I got paid for, I'll say, um, was with this guy named Anthony Cassetto. And for lack of a better term, Anthony comes from a very Italian family, and they wanted him to do what his passion was, which was music, because they wanted him to stay out of the family business.
Oh,
That's how I'll
okay.
say that.
Okay.
So he came to the studio that I was working at. He and I started working on songs together. Um, it didn't really go anywhere, but at least it kept him safe, I'll say.
Okay.
Very interesting sessions, but it was fun.
Well, that's interesting to be that's like your first paying session. So that yeah, that's crazy, but that's good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. Um, so how do we get from keeping somebody out of, safe and out of the family business to creating your own sound of sci-fi soul?
Wow. I'm a sci-fi head. I love anything futuristic, like movies. Like I can't wait for Dune 3 to come out this year. Um, I've always been like, very fascinated with anything that has to do with the future, anything that looks like, dystopian. Even books that I've read have like inspired me. But I'm very much a soul head at heart. Like I love Music Soul Child, I love Neo Soul, Erica Badu, D'Angelo, like all of that. And so I've always wanted to figure out what that sound would sound like in the future. And so I've tried to kind of like, not purposefully, but whatever really would inspire me, those songs would come out sounding like a mesh of both, old soul and the future. Um, so that's where the term kind of came from, is just my version of what neo soul is or R&B is for me.
Okay. And is what's a song that you can tell us to listen to that you feel encompasses sci-fi soul? Like once we
Wow.
listen to it, we'll understand exactly what it is.
I would say listen to my first single off my first R&B album, Chronicles of an Overambitious Fat Boy. The name of that song is called Get Back,
Okay.
and it blends that soul and futurism so well. There's a sample in there from a gospel artist that used to go by the name of Tone. He goes by B Slade now.
Hmm.
And I sampled him, and it was a very futuristic song that he did. And I just looped the end of the song and then wrote a full R&B song on top of it. So when you hear it, you'll hear the merge of the future and the past, basically.
That's dope. Because initially, like, I saw you did a post about it on your social media. So I was like intrigued, like, how did you come up with this? And initially, what I thought it reminded me of, like a Timberland or a Pharrell that kind of like elevated, the music space, the R&B space, it like took it to another level. So I feel like you're doing the same thing with Sci-Fi Soul. So that's really cool.
I'm trying my best. I mean, sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a little out there.
But I think that's what makes it happen. Like you have to take those chances. And I think as a creative, you're always going to second guess yourself. And I'm pretty sure Timbaland has some beats where he's just like, yeah, that's not
Yeah,
that's not it. So
yeah.
I just think it's dope that you're able to put all these things together that you love and create your own sound, which is different than what a lot of other people are doing. And I saw another post that you had where you had posted like your last day of work where you decided you're going to take the leap of faith and do music full time. And I think that is something that so many people can relate to, like even myself, wanting to take that leap of faith and do this full time and move to another city or location, but it is scary. So, how did you get to that point where you were like, okay, I'm going to do this?
So what's funny is this is my second big leap of faith. I was doing music full time about maybe 14 years ago, with another company that I was with, and that company started to fall apart, and I needed to figure out what I was going to do. And so I was like, time to go. Let me put the music on the back burner, get a full time job, and just see what happens there. And I just, I asked God just to like open doors because I'm making this move, and if I do something, then maybe you'll do something. And um, 10 years ago, I started working at a corporate office, and I thought that the music was going to stay on the back burner. But what was funny was, as much as I was working, there were so many opportunities that were still coming out of it. Um, opportunities to do more music, to record different people, to, do shows and performances, even win awards. Um, and then, last year, a lot of stuff was starting to come up, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to do this because the job is going to get in the way. The job really wasn't going anywhere. And so I made the decision to take the first step, which was to go to LA in January for Grammy week and just to see what it was like because I've never been before. And I'm like, I should have been at Grammy week. I saw so many people, met so many different people, connected with so many different places and things. And I'm like, this is what my life should be. And I can't do that if I'm stuck at this 9 to 5. And granted, the 9 to 5 was great, but I also had to remind myself that God is my source, not my job. So, if I take these leaps, I'll be okay. And I decided that was it. So 10 years of that job. Now we're going to move on to the next era. So it's scary, but I'm at peace.
No, but that's really good. Like I said, so many people can relate to that because everybody wants to take that leap, but it's scary to not have that stability anymore, right?
Yeah,
So I think that's really awesome that you're able to do this a second time around to really go for it. And I think that's gonna stick with a lot of people to, know that God is your source and not always the 9 to 5 that's kind of draining us, right? Because it's not
exactly.
really where we feel that we're supposed to be. So I think that's super cool. But another thing too, I find about taking a leap is that sometimes we kind of romanticize the life that or the industry that we're going into. So, what's something that you would say that people don't realize about the music industry that they should really pay attention to before taking that leap?
I would always say that the first thing you want to do is redefine what success means to you. Success looks different to every person. Every person's journey is different. And, I get times in my life where I'm like, oh, I wish I was doing this. I wish I was on tour with this person. I wish I had this placement. But there's a reason why certain things did not happen. I might not have been ready for them. Maybe there was something down the line that would be detrimental to my journey that maybe I was avoiding, unbeknownst to me. But it was probably the best thing for me not to have that, at the moment. So when I look at, the different things that I've been able to accomplish, I have to look at those things like, you know what, that is success. Even if it doesn't look like somebody else's, my journey is always going to be different and God's timing is always going to be perfect for me, rather than somebody else. So definitely redefine what success looks like for you and know that your path is yours. This industry makes you think that you're supposed to have what everybody else has, but nobody really knows the truth. Somebody looks really flashy and shiny like everything's okay, and behind the scenes they're spiraling. So definitely figure out what works for you and what path you want to have, and then work towards that.
Yeah, but and how do you stay grounded in that? Because a lot of times, especially with social media now, seeing people and their highlight reels and all like the good things, and like I said, glamorizing the music industry, even though a lot of truths have been revealed, so we don't see that it's all glitz and glamour. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of people are being betrayed, not being paid, all those things, but we still glamorize it for some reason. And so, how do you kind of like stay the path?
You got to know who you are. I think that anybody that's been in this industry that's failed at it or, didn't achieve what they were trying to achieve, there might have been this lack of self-awareness. If you know exactly who you are and the things that you want and need and you go for them, then nobody can take you off your path. Nobody can push you off your journey. Nobody can distract you. Nobody can, get in the way of what God really has for you. So if you know who you are, you know who you belong to, as in if you have a relationship with God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, if you sit in that and you let that direct your choices and your path, you'll be fine. Just know who you are.
Yeah, that's important too. And then as a songwriter, how do I know it's probably different every time because I am not a songwriter, so I do not know. But when you are starting a new project or you're songwriting, like how does that process begin for you?
It's different almost every time, like you said. But for my past projects, one of the things that I used to do all the time was just write down song titles and different topics or titles that I feel like they could be songs and then I would write based off of that. But then other times, if I'm doing like a concept project where it's like specifically about a narrative, then I'll just let the songs come out the way that they come out, and then I'll title them later. Um, but if I'm writing for another artist, I really got to get to know them and really figure out what they want to say, figure out who they are as a person outside of just their musicality or their skill. I want to know like what do you have to offer to the world, and how can we put that into a song? and really sitting with them and having those conversations, it really makes it just flow right out of me. So yeah.
And how do you know when a song is finished?
I don't think songs are ever finished. I think that um, you can get them to a point and that feels good for you, and then you'll release the song, and then all of a sudden you'll be singing it one day and you hear another harmony that you wish you would have added. So it's never really ever going to be over, especially if you start performing those songs. You're going to find new ways to sing them, you know. Even when they're like out and then the consumers are getting them, they're going to find their own ways to sing the songs too. I think once you give birth to a song, you just have to let it grow, and it grows in whatever way it wants to with whoever is watching it.
Because sometimes I know a lot of creatives, they're perfectionists. And so sometimes that stops them from releasing music and songs because it's never done for them. Like they feel like there's always something that's missing, something that could be better. So I always wonder, how do you know it's finished?
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel like you definitely want to know when the song can breathe.
Hmm.
When you said everything you need to say, if you've gotten all the harmonies in that you want to get, all the instruments that you want to get, let it breathe. And then once you're done, let it sit for a second. Come back to it maybe a week or so later with some fresh ears. And then if you hear something else that you want to add, go ahead and add it. If you don't, maybe it's time for it to come out. And I mean, I used to be a perfectionist, but I also learned like a long time ago, it's never going to be perfect. There is no perfect. So whatever is naturally coming out of you, let that be what it is, and then you'll know, you'll feel it.
And then what about, there's so much talk about songwriters getting paid for their work. Um, can you tell us a bit about that? Like, what are your thoughts on it? Because I spoke to a songwriter by the name of Tracy Hale from Atlanta, and she wrote Maya's Case of the X, and she was just saying how the game has changed drastically from when she started until now, and she has to look at different ways, or songwriters should look at different ways of getting paid and not just look for like the big placements, but look into sync opportunities as well. Do you feel the same way, or how do you go
Yeah,
about
I feel the same way. I also know that for me, for the past 10 years, I was working a full-time job, and that was funding my music for a certain aspect of it. And, at times I would get paid for a placement or get paid for production or whatever, but, it's not as consistent as you would like it to be, like a paycheck. So for anyone that is a full-time artist that is really trying to make money off of it, then yeah, there are certain, games you'll have to play. There are certain things you'll have to kind of like just take. But I do agree that a songwriter is just as important as the artist, just as important as the producer, just as important as the engineer, just as important as the A&R. Everyone that's involved in the project should be getting paid for their work. And so for a songwriter, for us to have to wait until 3 years after an album has made its money for me to make my money, that's crazy. You can pay me for my time at least, and then I'll worry about the royalties later. Um, but until that happens, multiple streams of income is always a great thing. Figure out what else you can do to kind of like, compensate for the lack of consistency when it comes to being paid for songwriting. But we definitely should be getting paid. That's just, period.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like even looking at on Instagram, the stories or TikTok, the stories of different songwriters that aren't getting paid for their work, and albums have been released and they're still not being paid. To me, it's so crazy because the album wouldn't happen without the songwriters.
But I will say, I implore everyone to learn how to read contracts and learn how to negotiate your contracts as well. Because if a song that you wrote is being released without your name or your credit, that means that business was not done properly at some point. And so either you got to read up on your own, contracts and stuff, or your management or your team has to be knowledgeable of it. So that way you're taken care of and you're safeguarded across the board. Um, I have had instances where, people have tried to run off with my stuff. And then I had to remind them, like, no, this is what we agreed upon. Here's the paperwork. Now, if we'd like to both avoid court, because it's going to cost us more than what you were going to pay me, let's just abide by the agreement that we have. So anyone, and I've heard these stories, recently from different albums that have come out where it's like, oh, I didn't get paid for writing this song. Why? Why didn't you get paid? Because someone along the line negotiated that deal for you to even be a part of this project. So did you miss something? Did someone else miss something? You got to make sure that you're very knowledgeable and educated on how this business works so that no one can take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's honestly, I think that's something that I picked up on. I think sometimes certain people are hoping that you're not as educated so that they
Mhm.
can take advantage of you. So I think that's been speaking to artists or people behind the scenes. I think really learning the business is so important. And there's always something new to learn, especially now where things are changing with AI and stuff. So yeah, I think that's something that's really, really important. Um, and then there's things like there was the on Netflix, there was that show, I can't remember the name of it, but it had songwriters.
Yes.
So would you say that show is kind of like really depicting like how it works, I guess, for songwriters camp or something like that, or was it kind of just more for entertainment?
I think it was a bit of both. It's so funny that you bring that up because I watched that whole season and I was like super interested in it. And I
Mhm.
started calling up all of my songwriter friends, like, "Yo, did you watch the show?" And then watching it, it was really dope to see the process because it was very similar. But then it
Okay.
was also a little triggering because I'm like, okay, I've been through that, you know. Um, and it definitely played a few things up for ratings.
Hmm.
But I loved seeing the behind the scenes process of just how we create these songs. I've been in writing camps as well that were very similar to that on the show. They didn't fly us to no private island or nothing like that, but they definitely put us up and had us just working for like a full week, and we got so much stuff done. You definitely have egos that will clash. You definitely have people that may not feel as skilled or experienced in the room. And the kind of person I am, I'm very observant. I like to sit back and just watch. And then when I know when I'm supposed to bring my strengths in, I can run with it. So that show I think was really cool. I want them to do a season two, but I want them to use songwriters who are not already big place songwriters. Like I want them to use people like me.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna ask if you would do something like that because I think it was really cool as someone who like just loves music and is a fan of like, credits and people behind the scenes just to see how things come together. But I think it would be a really good idea if they did use people that weren't so well known. I know obviously maybe for the launch of it they had to get to draw people in, but I think it would be cool if they slowly start to like put in people that are not as well known because I think that would help them as well to grow their career. So,
Definitely. I would
yeah.
love to be on that show.
Yeah, no, that would be so cool because I love those things. Like I remember Jermaine Dupri, he used to have like a series called Living the Life. And so it would take you behind the scenes of him working at the studio with like Brian Michael Cox and Jonte Austin. And I would tune in all the time on YouTube because they would cut up all the time. Like they're hilarious, but then you also see them putting in the work for
Yeah.
it. So,
That's real life. That's what we do. I mean, if I don't know if if Ali's told you, but I know that when we're in the studio, half of it is us just laughing. And I'm surprised that we even get a song done, but we still get a song done. But when the relationship is there and the chemistry is there, it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like fun. So I love working with artists that way.
yeah, but I think that's also what creates the magic of, the songs that come out too, is that relationship that you build with the artist or the other people that you're working with too. So I think that shows up in the final product of what we get to listen to. So speaking of Ali Caldwell, the your name came up because you did Mind Reader for episode 1 of her
Yes.
and I was just saying, it's so funny too that you were saying like Brandy's an influence because it reminded me of a track that I could hear Brandy doing. So I thought that was so cool. But then she had mentioned you made that track, but you wanted it for Janet Jackson. And I was like, oh my gosh, I do. So
Yeah.
what's the story behind that?
So I think let me just say this: Brandy is the vocal Bible. We are all most R&B singers are students of Brandy. That's a given. Um, but I also think there's people that have been stacking harmonies for ages.
Yeah.
And Janet Jackson is one of them, and she's one of my favorite when it comes to that. And so, I was in a slump, a little bit of a depressive state a few years ago, and I needed to kind of like clear out things and just clear my mind. I like revamped my whole apartment. I revamped my studio, and I wanted to start working from scratch. And Mind Reader is actually the very first song that I worked on after that slump. And then, I tried to shop it and send it to a few people. Nothing happened. And then, fast forward to last year when I reconnected with Ali, and I was like, let me just show you what I'm working on, some of the stuff that I have. She heard that and she was like, I need this. And I was like, really? And she's like, yes, I need this. So, we recorded it, but she recorded it the way that I referenced it for Janet Jackson. And it was cool, it was cute, but it wasn't the song yet. And
Yeah.
so she was like, you know what, let me come back and I want to sing this the way that I would sing it. And she blew my mind. Like it completely changed the feel of the song. I didn't hear Brandy, I didn't hear Janet, I didn't even hear me. So, it took it to a whole different level. And I'm still on the song, like I'm on the background vocals with her, but it's just like it completely changed the vibe of it. And now it's like it's a fan favorite. Like I love the song. I listen to it like I didn't even do it. So it's really, really fun.
It's such a dope track. Like I even told her, like I really, really enjoy that song off of
Thank
the
you.
EP. So yeah, you guys really did that. That was so good. Did you work on any other tracks on that EP?
So what's crazy is on Ali's whole journey right now, she's got three EPs and an album coming out this year and next year, and I'll be working closely with her on the whole entire project. So if I'm not songwriting, then I'm recording. If I'm not recording, I'm vocal producing. If I'm not doing any of those, I'm mixing. So I'm like all over this project, and I'm just excited because we've known each other forever, but this is our first time like working so closely together, and it just makes sense now. Like it sounds great. It's super fun, the whole process. And I mean, Allie's a powerhouse. Like if I'm gonna work with a vocalist, I should work with somebody like her, know? So she makes everything come to life. And I just also know what my strengths are, and to bring those to the table with her, like all these projects, you guys are going to be floored. Like it's some really dope stuff.
Oh, well, that is exciting. I can't wait to hear more music. Got to listen to episode one. I think it's such a dope body of work. So I can't wait to see how everything comes together. So, and I'm trying to see like when she has a show, I really, really want to see her live. So I'm waiting for that so I could make my way over to the US to see that. So I'm
Definitely.
hoping that works out, especially this summer. So that'd be really, really dope. And then I also wanted to talk a bit about Brandy because you had mentioned her, and I did see again on your good old social media that you were at the 211 album release party, which is
Yes.
crazy. Love that album.
Yes.
So how was that? Because have you met her yet?
Nope.
No, you
That's
still haven't met her.
That is the funniest thing. I've been in so many instances where I could have met her. I've been to plenty of shows. I know so many people that have worked with her. I was able to connect with LaShawn Daniels before he passed away. My mom's first gospel album was produced by Roddy Jerkins' uncle. So it's a lot of connection.
Okay. Okay.
And I just have not met her. But, that 211 experience, I don't remember how I got into VIP. I think somebody that we knew just like put me in the room.
Hmm.
Um, and I was actually able to sing that night too before she came out, which is also crazy. Um, it was just a dope night celebrating her. And I think, one of the things that we're learning now, because she's got so much going on, where she's got the Walk of Fame, the tour just finished, her book is out, like all these different things that are celebrating her now. I've been wanting to celebrate her for years, and I feel like she's a person who's always deserved her flowers because of how much she's done for R&B. And that night, India Arie was in the room and wound up tributing her by singing "He Is." Like at that point, I can die. Like I don't need anything else. And just to kind of see her response and the crowd's response, like there was so much love in the room. It was less about the album and more about just the appreciation of her. Um, of course, 211 is one of my favorite albums from her, but that night was definitely like transformative. So if she's watching, I would love to meet you.
Listen, I'm right behind you. I'll be sneaking in right behind you. Like I'm with him. No, that would be so dope. But from just speaking to you and about the things that you've told us so far, I feel like God places you where you need to be at that time. So I
Yeah,
think it is going to happen. And I think you're just going to be ready at that moment. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be great.
yeah, man. I believe it.
So I can't wait for that to happen for you. So
Yes,
that's definitely going to be exciting.
I'll tag you in the picture.
Yes, please. Please.
Yes.
I'll be cheering here in Montreal, Canada. I'll be like, yes. Yeah, no,
Perfect.
that would be so cool. I would definitely love that, and I think I agree with what you said for her to be celebrated because we do have, I feel like this thing here in R&B music where we don't celebrate our artists enough. So many spaces have been taken away from R&B as well. So I feel like any chance that we get to show love to the R&B artists, I think we should take that time to do so. So I think it's really important, and I'm happy for her in this era that she's in now, receiving her flowers, and I hope it continues. So,
Yes, definitely. Yep.
and then you as an artist, because we talked about you, producing, creating the sound, songwriting, but you're also an artist yourself. Is that initially what you wanted to do, is be an artist, or was it more so behind the scenes?
I think coming from my parents being both musical, like my mom was a gospel artist in her own right, and also she shifted over to jazz. But my father was also her songwriter, partner, and producer. So I kind of like have always wanted to do both. Um, but it wasn't until like right before I left my old company that I was like, you know what? I really want to create this platform for other artists to really see their dreams come true. And in the meantime, if I feel like I want to put something out, I'll put something out. And there's a lot of music that's come from both sides of that. So I've always kind of worn all the hats, which sometimes I think has maybe like stunned me a little bit, just because, if an opportunity comes up, people want to see me do one thing instead of do all the things. But I also am open to it. I want to work with everybody. I want to work on everything. Whether it's something for myself, I'll do it. And if it's something for somebody else, I'll do it with the same kind of tenacity.
But I think that just goes to show kind of like how society is kind of like stuck in its ways, because I feel like a lot of people are multi
Hmm.
this, like they do different things, and I feel we should be allowed to do all the things that we want to do and be known for those things. So I think I know a lot of people that go through that. They do different things, but people are like, no, we need to identify you as one thing to really know who you are and stuff like that. But I don't know. I tend to disagree. I feel like we should be
Yeah.
allowed.
And I like a challenge. I have had situations. I won't tell the full story. I'll save it for the book. But I had a deal on the table for an album that I was working on a few years back, and I was with my old company, but as the producer of that company. And so when that deal came, their fear was, oh, he's going to abandon us. And I'm like, I can do two things at the same time. Like it's very possible, Oh, but we don't trust that, you'll stay back and be loyal to us. And I'm like, I haven't gone anywhere yet. The check hasn't even been cut, you know. And so like I like a challenge. I like to be able to multitask. I'm a Virgo, so I'm very like, there we go, August 28th. So like I'm very much detail oriented, and I like to make sure that I'm covering all my bases. So, say if I just solely wanted to be an artist and that doesn't work out for me, I got to be able to do something else,
Yeah.
And then say that I'm working with artists and maybe one of them drops off, or there's not a steady flow of music coming out or whatever, because life happens. I got to still be able to make my company work. So that means I got to get in the booth, and do what I do for me. So it's this is what I live for. This is what I know that I'm called to do.
Yeah. No, I think society just needs to kind of catch up to that. But also too,
Yeah.
like that has to be studied because as Virgos, we always do a lot. Yeah.
Yes, we do the most. We do the
Yeah,
most.
I'm never just resting. Like I have this podcast, I have my nonprofit, I do PR work, and then I'm working my job. And then it's like, girl, like
Yeah.
people have told
But
me
we
like,
can do it, and we do it successfully. We are like spent at the end of the day, but we know how to make it work.
yeah, I need to get back into my astrology bag and figure it out. What is it? But that's super cool though that you have those different outlets that you can do. And I think it's important to, if you are a creative, to get the ideas that you have in your head out, whether
Yes,
it is through producing, songwriting, being the actual artist.
yes, definitely.
And so, for the series that you have, I Write Songs Now, how did that come about?
So I did the first part of that, volume one, about 11 years ago when I was leaving my company. I started it toward the end of that, and I kind of call it my freedom project. Um, the business and the relationships between me and my business partners was so toxic, and I really needed to escape. Um, and so I did, and that was the first project that came out after I left, and it was just me kind of like seeing or going back to what I know that I was good at without any distractions, without anybody in my ear telling me, what I wasn't. And I knew that I was a dope songwriter at the very least. So I was like, let me just put on a project where it's just about my songwriting. And, several projects came after that. And then was it last year? No, the year before last year is when I came out with the second project, which is exactly 10 years after the first one. And I just, again, wanted to have fun. I just wanted to write songs. And then last year was the same thing, just more of it. Just wanted to have fun with my pen, you know?
And is it always like the same themes? Because I didn't get to listen to the first, the second one. I've been listening to the third one like nonstop. But
Thank
is
you.
there like specific themes, or is it based on wherever you are in your life at that point?
It's really based on wherever I am. I will say that this third one is a lot more biographical.
Okay.
Like most of those songs are true stories. Like Demon Sign is definitely a true story,
Okay.
because Scorpios scare me. Um, and Married by the Morning is definitely a true story. I'm in a new relationship now, and I'm ready to get married. So like, is
Okay.
I'm that kind of person. But then even like a song like Put Me On has been like my lifelong, plea is I know that I'm dope. I just need somebody else to see it, and then do something about it. So that particular one is definitely autobiographical, but most of my songs are usually about me. I found that people like when I'm telling my business. It's a lot of me in there somewhere.
So does I always ask this question to artists, like, is that ever do you get nervous because things are about your personal life, even though without you saying it, like I didn't know, like you could have been talking to like 10 different people coming up with these songs, but no, you knowing yourself like this is about me and my life, do you get nervous like sharing that with the world?
Yes and no. Yes, because I've had people hit me up like, "Is this about me?" I'm like, "No, it's not about you." Or is this about so and so? I'm like, "No, it's not about them." But no, because I know that number one, I'm a good songwriter, and number two, I'm a really good storyteller.
Mm.
I love writing. I always say that if I wasn't doing music, I would be a journalist or a novelist or something like that. But my mom has always told me that you're responsible for every song that you write. So if you're gonna write it, you got to be able to stand behind it. So I'm really not nervous about the songs that I write. I really don't care. I mean, I'm never gonna put anybody out there. Like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say names. I'll save that for the book. But yeah, I think that you got people like Taylor Swift who puts like the names of people like in the codes of the liner notes and stuff like that. I don't necessarily need to do all that,
Mm.
but if you date a songwriter, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have a song about you. So,
No, but it does happen because even one of my friends, he's a radio host, and so we had started the show together, and he would tell stories about his life, especially his dating life. And
mm,
people would get so mad because they'd be like, "Oh, I know the story is about me," but in my head, I'm like, nobody knows it's you. Like, I'm the only person that knows because I'm his friend, so he obviously had told me, but no one knows who he's talking about. They just think it's a really entertaining story.
unless it's about you and you know it's about you because the details are there, then you have to ask like, well, why is this song about me? What did I do? But like I said, I try to keep names out of it, but I have told some really detailed stories about my life. So
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. All right. With this project that you released, like, are you going to be like doing shows or videos or anything like that surrounding this project?
So for that last project, I've pretty much done what I was going to do with that last project. I'm actually working on something else for later this year. That's going to come out this summer. I am super proud of it. I'm super excited about it. It's probably one of my most ambitious projects.
Okay.
I don't want to give too much about it. I will just say that everybody will get their first taste of it next month,
Oh, okay.
in May. So I'm super excited. It's a concept album. It's back in my Sci-Fi Soul bag, so I'm really, really excited to share that. And I think if anybody has a question about Sci-Fi Soul, they will get it from this album.
Okay, cool. Well,
Yeah.
that's exciting because, well, you know me, I'm late to the whole show. So
Yes.
I'm listening to volume three and I gotta go back. I gotta listen to all of them. The Love Experiment also is another
Yes.
one I gotta check out. And I also want to ask you about Welcome to Natural City.
Yes.
It has a lot of different artists on it as well. Are these artists that you have discovered or just have worked with?
So these are all artists that are under my indie label, Natural City Music. So we decided, we've been working together on music for years, but we decided, let's do a compilation project and really tell this like, storyline about what Natural City is and what it really means. Um, it was so much fun to do because I've always wanted to do a compilation project like that.
Hmm.
Um, and for this particular project, it was crazy because I was working on it around the same time that Jacob Collier was working on his last Jesse album. And it was almost kind of the same thing where he had this long list of people that were featured on it and all these different types of songs, and he was building this world. And I was kind of doing the same thing. Um, and so, like, on his project, he had the song with himself and Yebba, Tori Kelly, and John Legend. And we have a song like that on my project where it's like all five of us on the record. And it's one of the most powerful songs that I think we've ever worked on together. Um, it's really, really cool just how everybody's been able to get to know everybody on the album as well that they might not have known. Like my brother, Lenny Harold, he's on the project. He's an artist in his own right. He's toured with Blackstreet. He's toured over the world. He's won the Apollo, stuff like that. But he and I, we've been friends since we were kids. So he's part of the movement. Seychelle Elise is a gospel artist that we work with. Lauren Ashley's an R&B singer. She's actually best friends with Ali Caldwell. And then we have Authentic, who's the newest addition. He's another R&B singer as well. And it's so much fun to work with people that are my friends and family and, help them get their ideas out and get their sound out as well. So,
So that's amazing. So that's another thing
yeah.
we gotta check out is those artists also
Yeah.
get into them as well. So that is amazing. And then you keep mentioning a book. So we also want to look forward to this book that's gonna come out sometime in the future. What made you decide to write a book?
So the book has been started and stopped and restarted like three times. And I say book more of like a joke, but I actually do want to write a book because I feel like there's stories that I have over my journey that people would need to hear. Like I'm not the biggest artist, I'm not like some A-list celebrity or anything like that, but I do know that the things that I've experienced and the stories that I have about my journey, somebody can learn from them. And so I feel like, why wait until I get famous to put that out? Let me just go ahead and write the story now. So, a book is coming. I'm going to finish up this next album first, and then we'll see. But I definitely think that, people got to tell their stories, even if you're not the biggest celebrity, if you're the smallest celebrity, if you're just starting out, like people love behind the scenes. They love being able to see the things that they're probably not supposed to see. And so I think telling those types of stories will definitely help people. Yeah.
No, definitely. I feel like everybody has a story to tell. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that too because I'm a person that loves like behind the scenes stuff. And anything that I learn, like I love to share with people. Like if I meet a songwriter and they're going through something specific, but I read about it somewhere, I'm like, oh, you need to check this out, or this is the resource you need to like use, or whatever. I think that's really important to always share that knowledge. I know writing a book is not the easiest thing to do, so
At all.
I love that. And so for you now, with everything that you're doing and putting together, what does success look like to you in like the next, I guess, 3 to 5 years?
Wow. I would like to be doing what I'm doing and have it really, not just be lucrative, but have it be impactful. Like I know that, R&B is the vehicle, singing is the vehicle, doing music is the vehicle, but I know that I have a responsibility while I'm here to inspire, to encourage, to uplift people, um, to bring back their connection to God or whatever their source is. Like I know that that's my responsibility, so I want to do that in whatever way that I can. So if that's through building my label, we'll do that. If it's through just putting out more music, I'll do that. Um, I definitely have a goal. I want to get on somebody's tour. Like I would just love to tour one time just to see what that life is like. Um, but yeah, outside of that, just keep doing what I'm doing. Like this music is never gonna stop. So I want to do it as long as I can.
I love that. And then, taking those classes for business, starting your own label, and different things like that. Like, what's one thing about the music industry that you can tell us that you think is important for people to know? Could be for songwriting, could be as an artist, a producer, or what have you, a business, music professional, anything.
So I think it's really important to know that the music business is not music. And I think a lot of artists, they kind of get caught up in the glitz and glam of it and forget that this is a business. So I always tell people that there's three things, right? One, if you're doing music for yourself, cool, but understand that you're not going to make any money. Two, if you're doing music for your family and friends because they said, oh, my baby can sing, cool, let them pay for it. And then three, if you're doing this music to be a star or be a big household name, then you've got to educate yourself. You've got to play certain games. You've got to know the games and know how to maneuver through it, especially today because, streaming, AI, social media, algorithms, all that kind of stuff all play a part in what we do now with modern day music. So educate yourself and really figure out if this is for you, then find out the best way to navigate it. I mean, I have done my label very differently than other labels do. So the contracts that I have with my artists are they're not, I don't want to say that they're loose, but they're not as rigid as most companies would do. So if an artist says, this is not what I want to do anymore, okay, cool, no problem. You know, if they say, I want to extend, no problem. I always let everyone know I'm not promising to make you a star. I'm promising to get your music out,
Yeah.
the best way that we can. And if I've done my job, then I think we're good. So that's how I run Natural City.
No, but that's really good that you're making that change. You're not following kind of the exact blueprint that we see labels do, and then so many artists end up being angry, and you see all those like true stories come out later on, and what was happening behind the scenes. So, I think that's really cool that you're doing it your way and making it better for artists and yourself also. I think that a lot of people should be inspired by that because it's so easy to just follow the norm, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
I'll
that's
say I was in it was like a live stream with the Grammy Association,
hmm
and they had this therapist. She came on and she was talking about it was specifically about urban music and R&B. This was during the pandemic, and she came on and she was talking about the fact that for so long the industry has been um, kind of held hostage by people who created it, but not for our benefit, and yet we continue to use the same rules and then put those rules on other people that we're working with. Why do we do that? We're perpetuating this standard of always trying to scam people when that's not what we're supposed to be doing. That's not what we should be doing to ourselves. So she was like, the only way that we can make a change is to stop using their rules and start using some integrity in how we do our business, and then we'll start to flourish. So when she said that, it completely opened my mind to how I want to run my business.
no, I love that. I love seeing people do things differently and not following what the masses are doing because that's the only way that we're going to see change is you
Yep.
have to be bold enough to like do something totally different. And even like with the music that you're making, like creating your like subgenre of music, like you said, some will hit, some will not, some will understand, some won't. But the only way that we're gonna grow and change is if we try different things. I think you're on the right path with a lot of stuff that you're doing. I'm here cheering you on. So
Thank you.
anytime you feel like, what the hell am I doing? Just know there's a girl in Canada that is cheering you on.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So you're doing a lot of cool stuff. Two questions before I let you go because it's already almost at an hour.
Uh,
You were mentioning Grammy. You're a voting member.
yes.
So can you just explain a little bit how that works? Like, how do you become a voting member, and then what is that process of voting? Because there's so much talk about the voting process, especially in the R&B category, R&B and hip hop. I know there was I think it's Isaac Hayes Jr. that was talking about it, how he feels that it's more so the LA chapter that's kind of like voting and getting their artists in, but we won't go
Yeah.
too much into that, but just explain the process.
So I'll first say that every year when it's time to vote for the Grammys, I'm annoyed. But the way to get into it, number one, you do have to be recommended. I actually got into it because I signed up and I paid to get in.
Okay.
This was before they started doing the recommendations, but now you have to get two recommendations, and then they accept you, and then you let them know if you want to be a voting member or just a part of the academy. But I will say that it's very beneficial for artists to get their music heard by people that they would never probably get it in front of. Being a voting member allows you to vote for yourself, so you can admit, you can submit your own music as well, and then you get to vote on the rest of the music from your peers. And I think that the process is trying to be cleaned up a little bit by, some of the changes that Harvey Mason has made. There's still some politicking that goes on, I think, but at the end of the day, you don't necessarily. And I just went to a mixer that they did last year, and one of the things they said was, you don't join the Grammys to win a Grammy. You join the Grammys to be a part of a community. And that's what I've been noticing. Like, the more events that I go to, it is a really good community to be a part of because you're connected with so many different people. You're able to show your music in front of people that you never would before. So, I would implore anybody if they can to join just to be a part of that community. And if you get nominated, cool. Yeah.
That's good to know too, how to get in as a voting member,
Yes.
because there's a lot of different information that's out there. So it's good to hear from somebody who's in it and how
Yes.
that process works. So thank you for explaining that. And then another thing is, because we spoke about you working with Brandy one day, but who are some other people in the music industry that you would love to have the opportunity to work with?
Um, I need to work with Omarion. I've always said that, like, I feel like I could give him some amazing stuff. Like, if he ever wanted to dip into like sci-fi soul, he would be the person that I would love to work with. Um, Definitely Brandy. Um, I mean, I've worked with certain people that I love. Like Mac Wiles is my brother for life. He and I worked on his After Hours album together, and that was a crazy experience. Um, but yeah, I would love to work with some K-pop artists. There's a K-pop group by the name of XG that I think is amazing. I would love to do something with them.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so we're gonna
Yeah.
speak that into existence. And I love
Yes.
that you said Omarion because I feel like he would be open to explore different sounds. And I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people sleep on his music, his catalog, and I feel like his
Yeah.
catalog's actually really crazy. So I think that would be super, super dope if that were to happen. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to everything, the new music. We're getting a new song next month.
Yep. May 15th, I believe. May
Okay.
15th.
And then a new project in the summertime, just in time
Yes.
for the summer. There's going to be a book, there's other artists. Gotta look at the label. There's so much that's going to be happening. So we definitely have to like stay tapped in. So how
Yes.
can everybody follow you to keep up with everything that you have going on?
So you can go to I have two websites. You can go to my company website, which is naturalcitymusic.com, or you can go to my website, which is a natural forever. So that's number four and then ever. And then I'm a natural forever on all social media. So I'm all over the place.
Perfect. And what's the best way to support you? I always ask this to artists and stuff.
The best way to support is number one, we need people to buy the album, like Brandy said on One Season Part. So if you go to my website and you get the music directly from me, that would be great. And then just tell everybody, like, we need word of mouth. Social media is really good for that. So tell everybody that you know that if you like this music, then shout it from the rooftop, call the radio station. If you want us to come perform, like tell your local venue that you love going to, that you want a Natural to come and perform, or anybody from Natural City. We are ready and open to do it. So
Perfect. So I want to thank you so much, Natural, again, for taking time out to speak with me. I love learning about everything in the music business. So you gave us a lot of gems, a lot of things to, check out and be aware of in the industry. So thank you so much. Everybody that's listening and watching, definitely follow him on social media. Go to his website, get his music. I've been listening to I Write Songs Now, Volume 3. The PMO song is going to go on my motivation playlist. I'm always looking for
hey,
songs to add. So that's definitely happening. I'm so happy I got to meet you virtually. But hopefully
yes.
one day it is in person. But definitely, everybody, please keep up with what he's doing and support. And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. This is the Total R&B Podcast. My name is Loreena. You can find us on social media at total.rnb and YouTube at Total R&B Podcast. And I will be back with a brand new interview.